Welcome back, everyone, to the Burnout Club. This is a place where we explore burnout and success one expert and experiment at a time. I'm your host, Patrice Bonfilio, and today I'm joined by Kacy Fleming. She is the CEO and founder of the Fuchsia tent and Kacy Fleming Consulting. So she is a powerhouse, and I'm so excited to talk to her. Kacy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about one of my favorite subjects with you today.
Yes. Yeah. And just for the audience, she's one of those people where you get the intro and they're like, oh, you have to talk to Kacy. So I know that it's going to be great. And not only is she a fantastic person to talk to, she's a TEDx speaker. She spent 2 decades in biopharmaceuticals, and she's also an organizational psychologist. And I think that when you have that role or have had it in your past, you give great recommendations that are practical. So I found that they make great guests. So let's get into it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are from your perspective, and that'll lead us into what you've built.
Yeah, it's a great question. I am ever evolving is who I am. I don't think I ever stay one thing. And that's really hard in a career, is to be this multi-potentialite, which I think so many of us are, where we wear multiple hats and we are not happy doing just one thing in a world that loves to put us in boxes, loves to say she is a organizational psychologist, or she is a women's health expert, or she is a workplace this. I kind of look at careers as this portfolio effect, but I look at myself. I don't know if you've seen the show, The Originals, The Vampire Diaries. I watch like television for 5-year-olds. But basically on the show, there's like werewolves and vampires, and then there's hybrids. And I look at myself at this point in my career as kind of a tribrid. I spent many, many years in market access and marketing. So I have a whole breadth and depth of kind of market access, making drugs affordable expertise. And then I have this great passion for well-being and burnout and all things workplace strategy that came from spending 22 years in the system and trying to improve the system while we were flying the plane, and, supported 50,000 people globally at Takeda and worked also in well-being at Sanofi. And then there's this kind of third arm that came from my own personal struggles with perimenopause. I am still in it 8 years after I started. And it was really this moment where I thought to myself, if I can't, with all my years in healthcare, with a dad who was a doctor, with a family comfortable talking about all things health, I had no idea the word perimenopause. If I didn't know this, I didn't have this information, what did everybody else have? And then I wanted to kind of hack that. And those are kind of like that's the 3 legs of my weird stool at this point, but it seems to be creating some interesting synergies. And I never would have picked those areas if you'd have asked me when I was, 20, what I wanted to be. None of those things would have come out.
Yeah, you wouldn't be talking about perimenopause.
No, and yet here they are, and there's a need for it, right? So I think it's just interesting. So I can't really define it, but ever evolving in that kind of tribrid of work passions is what I do now.
Yeah, well, it's very understandable. I think you have more direction than many people, and it helps since you're providing so much guidance and a safe space to learn about it. So, I mean, why don't you take us into the Fuchsia tent and let's figure out what that is. So start there.
Yeah. So the Fuchsia tent has had 2 major pivots since I launched it just about a year ago. When I was struggling through my perimenopause, one of the things that I found so frustrating about it was that there was all this information. I had no idea what was accurate at first. I didn't know who the experts were I should be turning to or listening to. There were so many solutions, but I had no idea what was efficacious and what was, snake oil. I didn't know any of those things. And I thought, okay, can I aggregate this? Can I put this all into one place, at least the best of the best? And then can I bring in the best experts? Can I create kind of guides for people so they understand how to enter and go through the journey? And then can I create the community that I was really looking for that I couldn't find at the time? And so that's really where it started. It started as almost like a warehouse for everything menopause. Then I was called, I think so often, if we listen to the pull of the universe, sorry to get woo-woo, but I really believe it's a co-creation. I kept getting pulled back into this workplace space. And people kept saying, we really need you to be talking about this in the workplace. Like, you were doing this and you were with Takeda. Why aren't you talking about menopause at work anymore? Like, this is your area. There's so many other women talking about like consumer and supplementation and all of those things, but nobody is talking about this complex problem and what we really can do about it, aside from, a checklist that says, you succeeded at, menopause friendliness, or you whatever. How do we really change this in workplaces? And so that is what the Fuchsia 10 became. So now, I do still offer community. All those resources are still available. 99% of them are free. But my main business is in helping workplaces understand the impact of menopause on their productivity, on burnout, on engagement, on all those factors. And what does good support look like? Like, what are we actually supposed to do to help women? It's not as complex as many people think it is. And so that is what the Fuchsia 10 has really become.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful, because you're bringing knowledge to not just women, but the men too, that are interacting with us in our daily lives, in the workplace, and everybody has questions. It's not like one group has access to all this information and has completely downloaded all the knowledge. Like, everyone is just, I think, a little bit off kilter when it comes to menopause and what we're all doing. So, like, what's the first thing that you lead in with for change? Or is it a different step that you lead with in the workplace?
I think awareness is the first step for everyone. And it really depends on the audience, right? If you're telling me my stakeholder is the C-suite, it might be a slightly different tweak of something that I lead in with. But on the whole, what we lack as a society is awareness that menopause is really hormone depletion syndrome. In my mind, it is a life stage, right? Like, we call it a life stage. It is 100%. The challenge with that is the symptoms of menopause, like the constellation, which is different for every woman, are caused by declining and rising and peaking and all of these things during perimenopause: estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And so in just calling it a life stage and not understanding that we have receptors in every area of our body, and when we lose estrogen, it affects our brain, our heart, our skin, our joints, all of these different things. We're oversimplifying it and we're treating it like it's just bothersome. And when I think about where we've come from an era where many, many women weren't in the workplace, and it was predominantly male dominated. And unfortunately, we're kind of heading back there with some of the latest data on women leaving corporate. But when we think about the work sphere, it makes sense that we weren't talking about, not to mention that there weren't really great options, because there was a study called the WHI study that came out in the early 2000s that basically linked hormone replacement therapy to breast cancer falsely. It was not a great interpretation of data, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of WHI right now, but I think it set us back 20-something years in actually caring for women. So we had this two-pronged problem. One, we can't talk about in the workplace because it's tied with ageism and sexism. And two, we don't really understand all of the symptoms that come around it because there was nothing to treat it. And now we're starting to peel that blooming onion layer off of what is actually menopause and how it does impact. And so the first step is creating true awareness for how long the stages last, how long it impacts women's careers and health and life, and what are some of the things that we can do to aid in the workplace. Once we get past that awareness, there's so much we can do. But I think awareness is that first step everywhere.
That makes so much sense. And how different are the solutions in each company? Or because I think you mentioned before, there's some really simple things that companies can do. So can you talk a little bit about what that might look like?
Yeah, I think we make it harder than it needs to be, right? And so with the Fuchsia we talk about this is the 3H framework. And I'll go through kind of those 3 H's. This is what, when we talk to women over the last number of years, they've told us they want from an employer. The first is healthcare. So this can mean different things for different employers. Obviously, healthcare in this country is very much tied to purchasing power. And so if you have 50 to 100,000 employees versus 100 employees, you have a very different ability to offer healthcare to your employees. And so what we see oftentimes is companies that are smaller saying, well, we just don't have the resources. And that's not necessarily true. What a company with 50,000 or 100,000 might offer, in addition to really great employer-sponsored healthcare, is a third-party solution, something like a Maven or a Carrot or a MIDI, one of these companies that specifically focuses on reproductive health or menopause and allows people to contact experts through telehealth. So that's kind of like an extra step. But healthcare, really great healthcare, and making sure if you don't have those options and you just have your employer-sponsored healthcare, which can be great, you're highlighting who is a menopause expert within your provider list, or you're working with an organization like a Fuchsia Temp, which will help do that for your employees who are seeking that information. That second step is help. And when I say help, I don't mean like women want, great, exceptions, accommodations. Forget that.
Yeah.
Compassionate leadership is something that every single organization or individual benefits from. It doesn't mean being kind. It means listening actively. It means clarifying when you don't understand something. And it means understanding what resources you have at the disposal in your company and providing them for the employees when they're in need. I think most managers, if you ask them if they knew where to find the benefits portal or what existed for menopausal employees, would tell you they had no idea. And in so many cases, there are a lot of resources that are already provided by the company, but people just haven't put them in one place or identified them as kind of menopause solutions. So that compassionate leadership, that help is that next step. Also things like flexibility we know make a huge difference. And I don't mean flexible work in the argumentative sense of return to office or being at home. Obviously, that's ideal. But flexibility in when, where, and or how we work, all of those things are great for women in midlife. And that last piece is the easiest piece, but it's the piece that I really feel like most employers get wrong. And this is hormone replacement therapy and non-hormonal therapy access. For years, we had no great non-hormonal therapy options for vasomotor symptoms and some of the more troublesome symptoms of menopause. We just had HRT, which is largely generic, pennies on the dollar, and every employer should cover it. When we look at non-hormonal therapy, we have new options that are actually targeted therapies really aimed at stopping vasomotor symptoms in their track. And what I wish employers knew, and humans in general knew, is that there is great data out now showing these vasomotor symptoms, these hot flashes and night sweats, as actual biomarkers for cardiovascular comorbidities, for neurovascular complications, for cognitive complications down the road. And so this dementia that women experience in droves more than men, these heart attacks, a lot of it has to do, not all of it certainly, but a lot of it has to do with loss of estrogen and having these vasomotor symptoms. And can we stop them? Can we educate and stop by providing access to these medications? So the 3H framework, healthcare, help, HRT, and non-hormonal therapy access, That is the baseline, and that is enough. If we did that well in every employer, as well as each employer could do, she would be light years ahead of where we are.
You're right, and that it is less complicated than I thought you were going to present. So I think everyone can breathe a sigh of relief. Like that's doable. So do you find, you mentioned the isms before, maybe like a fear of the sexism and the ageism. How does that play out when you're trying to roll out a change? Like, you should talk about this in the workplace, and you should like know what's going on and maybe proactively have a conversation. Like, what to do, what not to do.
It's a great question. I think we have to be very honest that we are not past ageism and sexism. We're not, and they very much exist. I still think the vast majority of men that I have spoken to really want to help women. They either have a spouse that's gone through it, or a coworker, or a dear friend, and they're looking for the right thing to do, and they're rightfully, cautious with how to approach this. I don't think telling everybody to talk about menopause is the answer. I don't think telling everybody to be an expert in menopause is the answer either. Listen, your job might be finance, it might be operations, it might be any number of functions that have nothing to do with healthcare. So your job is not to be an expert in menopause any more than it is to be an expert in menstruation, or, broken arms and legs, or, dementia or cancer, right? These are, we don't go into work unless we're in the medical field becoming experts here. What we do need to do is be able to have an open dialogue with each employee, regardless of gender, regardless of challenge, and start infusing our one-on-ones with, how are you really doing? And then we need to stop being afraid of what that person's going to say, because guess what? We don't have to solve it. You don't have to be an expert in any of this. You just have to ask someone how they're really doing and let them tell you. And I coach women to say, listen, you don't have to say, I'm having hot flashes, night sweats, or leave my keys in the fridge at 4 p.m. Nobody needs to know how the sausage is made. It looks like, for a variety of reasons, I haven't been sleeping well, or my energy, I'm struggling with it, or I'm feeling more agitation at these conversations that feel circular to me in here. This allows a leader to say, tell me more, or tell me what support from me looks like for you, which is, now as a leader, you don't have to know. You're asking, because support for you, Patrice, is going to look different from me. Even if we're just talking about menopause, what you need and what I need might be totally different. And then knowing the options that are available. And listen, if you don't, I don't know works too, but I'm going to find out. And then taking an action. That's the last step. That's what I say. Take some action, whether that action is, I'm going to follow up with HR and find out what they have for this. Patrice, I know today you don't know what you need, but I'm going to assign you with some homework to think about what might be most helpful for you and for your performance right now. Is it okay if I check back in with you in 2 weeks and see if you found some things you think I can do that will help you? This is action. Action isn't, oh, you know what? Let me tell you about this third-party telehealth solution that the company offers and selling it, right? You don't have to do that. It's not that complex. So that's the do's. It's really that active listening process. The don't is looking at an individual ever and trying to guess their age, or chalking symptoms of, frustration, anxiety, lost train of thought, any of these things, chalking them up to age or even, gender and menopause is not the right thing to do. It's the right time to get curious. When you, as a leader, notice, or a coworker, notice somebody seeming very different from how they presented, regardless of age, you should be asking that person, hey, how are you really doing? I've noticed you seem different the last couple of days. Is there, can we talk? right? Yeah. Like, that's very different than, hey, Patrice, you're being really irritable. What is going on with you? Now I'm like naming it for you when really you're not irritable. Somebody just passed away and you're just trying to deal with your emotion, right? So
exactly.
So the do's are much harder than the don'ts. It's just use common sense, right? Like, don't.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't want to be asked that question, don't ask it. And also, your job is not to diagnose, to treat, to do any of those things. It is get the person telling you what they need to help them.
Yeah.
So that you can, or you can find somebody else who can, right?
Yeah. And it's so true that if those steps are basic and they're what managers should be really doing anyway, you remove the fear from it, right? Because if you have an employee, like take your example that had a family member that passed away, right? Maybe they're not talking about it, but you would recognize that something's different and you would ask them like, okay, how can I help you in this situation? I like your idea of having them have time and space to think about it and come back with some ideas so that it feels real and genuine, but also personalized and effective. I think that can help maybe create an onboard ramp to a solution here where there's a little bit of paralysis. How long does it actually take for the culture of companies to really adopt this method versus like the standoff?
I mean, I can't really tell you because I know companies that have done really well at that first step awareness. I know companies who have brought in third-party solutions, who have ERGs who talk about this, who have brought experts like myself in to kind of talk about menopause in the workplace. I don't know people that have really taken it to the next level, which is true compassionate leadership work, because I don't think it's menopause work. I think I don't think, I know that it is the work that we should be undertaking. Listen, we're getting more and more technological by the second. Yeah. And the robots will always out-iterate us. We're never beating them at that. And yet, that's the game we as humans are playing at right now. It's like, let me out-iterate the robot. It's like, no, guys, not going to happen. So how do we out-human the way that we've been humaning for the past 20, 30, 40 years in business? We haven't been doing this well. We've been doing this industrial revolution style, as if employees were all standing on, assembly line and they were responsible for parts and for tests. We don't even look at outcomes. We don't look at all of these things. So that's not the discussion today. I'm not going to get into what's wrong with our performance management system, because that is an entire week's worth of webinar series where you need way more than just me as experts. But this is just about humaning better.
Yeah. I think that is very striking. Like, what did you say? Out-human the humans or out-human the robots?
We can't out-robot a robot. And yet, and I heard Brene Brown say it. I was at a Better Up conference and she said, we're living past human capacity. Something like that. Sorry, Brene, if I misquoted you. I don't know if you're watching this, but that probably was a horrible misquote. But the point of what she's saying is those of us that are still heavily embedded within systems are working at a capacity that is not human. And our bodies are breaking down. Our burnout epidemic is out of control. We see managers disengaging this year at higher levels than almost ever before. And we're not in a pandemic anymore. And we're not having these, catastrophic, offices closed, that sort of thing. We are living past our own capacity and we are pushing. And this works sometimes when you're younger for a while. If you have that immune system in that body, they can just push and push and push and push and push like a robot. Great. Most of us don't have that capacity. And we need rest, and we need prioritization, and we need focused deep work time, and we need all of these things. And yet we're like, if only I push harder, maybe I will not be replaced or replicated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you can push until kingdom come, and that robot is better than you at iteration, but it's not better than you at autonomy, at judgment, at choice,
Mm-hmm.
at compassion. This is where we excel. So why do that other thing? Let them do it, right?
Yeah.
Let them do it for us. And we can excel at
Mm-hmm.
taking care of the humans on our teams and within our networks. And then we all perform better.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that boosts productivity and strategy.
Right.
Not getting burnout. So if someone's in that camp, or they have just been in that race, pushing, and now they're starting to really feel it, like, I can't continue on in this manner, what's one thing that they can do or change to try to prevent burnout?
Yeah. I mean, listen, by the time you're in it, you can't prevent it, right? I think that the first and most important thing that I tell people is this first phase is honeymoon burnout. And it's deceptive. People don't think about honeymoon burnout because you are in love with your new job, or you're in love with, it's like honeymoon, right?
Yeah.
Everything's great. And you just push and you push and you push and you do and you do and you do. And it feels great every time you do it because you're like doing what you love and you've been wanting to do this forever. And the next thing you know, you're kind of moving on to the stress phase, right?
Yeah.
And so prevention is a little bit different than solving. I think, and there are people, RTO lovers, that are going to be all over me. But the one thing I think that is the most beneficial for every single human, not just midlife women, is giving some sense of autonomy in when, where, and or how we work. That allows people who are starting in that burnout cycle to do a life audit, to do like a work audit where they're prioritizing their work, to get really discerning and crystal clear about the difference between everything is important and here's what's really important in my life and here's what's really important in my work. So that's what businesses can do. I think what humans can do, if you are sensing that you are on the edge or you are already burnt out, get out a pen and a piece of paper. This is a free one. And do a life audit. Write down the 3 to 5 things that are the most important things to you personally, not work, you, not your kids, not your partner, not your parents, you. What are the 3 to 5 things that if you do them, you perform and you feel your best? Doesn't matter if it's Netflix. Doesn't matter if it's, preferably not a glass of wine, but hey, if it's a glass of wine every now and again, whatever, no one judge. Whatever it is, write your 3 to 5 things down, put it on the calendar, right? Like mine, one of them is tea with my partner. So we both work crazy hours, but we try 2 times a week to have like our half an hour, 45-minute tea time together. Sometimes it's 15 minutes, but we fit it in. And I put it on the calendar. Nothing is interrupting it. Because Patrice, if we don't put ourselves on the calendar, we are the first thing that comes off, right? We were never on there to begin with. So it's easy to be like, oh, yeah, sure. Let me take on this other 5 things you want me to take on. It was never on my calendar to begin with versus, no, I know that if I get up and I do abundance meditation and I have that 15 minutes, I am going to perform better. It's on my calendar and nobody's getting in the way of that, right?
Yeah, it's just setting that up. I feel like I say I'm going to do that and put myself on the calendar, and then I don't, or I make that mistake of taking it off once and then it never goes back on. It's just
totally.
It's
totally. Yeah. That's good. You don't do it once. And then instead of having grace for yourself and being like, okay, it didn't happen this time, you are like, oh, I'm never going to be able to get this done. I'm just taking it off. Right. And then of course it never gets done versus, you know what? I couldn't do it this week because I didn't set a boundary wall around it well enough. But next week I've seen my mistake. I'm putting it in red ink and nothing is getting in the way. And then you just keep trying until you master it.
Yeah. And you mentioned you mentioned your abundance meditation. I think that reminds me of the challenge that you were going to set for me and the listeners. Could you walk us through that?
So you're welcome, Deepak Chopra. Not that it cares what I do, but so There's this great free 21-day abundance meditation that Deepak Chopra has. You can get it on Apple Podcasts, or I think they even have like a YouTube version that has like a screensaver if you like to meditate in front of your computer. I don't advocate that. I think getting away from the screen is probably better, but you do you.
Yeah.
And what I love about this challenge or abundance practice in general is that I feel like so many of the problems that we have as humans come from scarcity mindset, right? I'm competing with this person because there's only so much headspace. I'm competing, for money, for title, for accolades, for speaking opportunities, for, I need to keep my job because if I don't, I'm never going to get another one. Or all of these mindsets are very limiting, right? And they're heavily impacted by how we were raised. So if you have parents that are like mine, they were, coming out of the depression, their parents were depression era babies, or, you have a parent whose big fear is never having enough money, that very easily gets passed on to us as humans. And we find ourselves in this rat race. Like there's never enough. There's never enough. And when you work with abundance, you shift that into there's more than enough. And I love this meditation because it kind of focuses on all aspects of abundance over 21 days. And it literally changes my life. I listen to it over and over and over again, not always in the order of 21, but I do it every morning because I have a partner who had the money woes and is scarcity minded, and building a business, I need to feel abundant all the time. Otherwise, I don't feel like I can do it.
Yeah.
And so I just love it. I love the practice. It's between 12 and 15 minutes. You can always, if you don't want to cut through his explanation and just do like the 6 or 7 minute meditation at the end. But I think something about listening to his explanation changes the cells in the body, and you start to rewire almost. And I've seen like the floodgates open for me where work just started pouring in once I started doing it.
Wow. Yeah, that's so interesting because it's like, I think any practice where you're dedicating time to changing your mindset is probably well worth it. But you're right in that we need some sort of mechanism to make us feel like we can get through all those hard things, right? We're all doing very difficult things. And if we are going into it feeling more optimistic or positive or abundant, I think that's a good tool to have in your pocket. How did you come about finding that? Because I hadn't heard of an abundance mindset before.
I don't know the exact mechanism. I studied yoga. I'm a yoga teacher. I don't actively teach, but I have my yoga teacher training certification and did a lot of practice around that. I've worked with many coaches who are grounded in both, the professional and the spiritual realms. And I read a ton and know that lack mentality or scarcity mindset, same thing.
Yeah.
Is really pervasive, especially in this culture. Like if you look at some other cultures, they're not constantly chasing and they may not have what we have, but they're happier. They're like, there's like an ease about them. And we're just like, running the race, little faster, get up, run the thing and get back on. And then about probably 6 months ago, I was working on my marriage deeply. I really believe in working on like marriage is work. It is.
It is. Yeah.
Love is a verb. Love is not a noun, right? And so I was working on my marriage and noticed my partner and I had this huge difference when it came to money, and his feelings were really creeping into how I was performing in my business or how I felt about like chasing in my business. And I was like, okay, this has to stop. And my first natural process, being a control freak, was to try and control him and get him to stop thinking and feeling this way. And I think I just woke up one day and I was like, all right, this is not working. Like I can't, like, how do I make this marriage work when this person has a mindset that's kind of killing me.
Mm-hmm.
And yet I love them, but I can't change them. And then I was like, ding, ding, ding. Okay. And then, I think there's a woman, Emily Aarons, she does a lot of work with abundance, and just like synchronicity, she popped up in my inbox and it was like abundance meditation. I was like, all right, the phone is listening to me clearly.
Yeah.
And then I remembered having done this Deepak Chopra series several years ago when it first came out, because I was a member of Chopra app back in the days when that was a specific app. And I just started doing it again. And this time I was like, I need to do it every day. And you know what? My marriage got better. Stop pushing on my husband to change his mindset, and his mindset started to kind of shift on its own, because my mindset shifted. It was like no longer like locked in this battle of wills. It was kind of like my way is better than your way. It was just kind of like, I'm going to work on my way because my way is not working for me right now, and I can control that.
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful way to think about it, and effective too. And it ties back in that phrase that you said really, I think, touched me, just saying, you know, oh, there's an ease about them, other cultures. Like, and I want to feel that. And I think most people should feel it. So it seems like after this meditation exercise you're doing, there's an ease about, you know, how you two are gelling together on that.
For us, for sure. Like, I'm not going to say that every day I wake up and I'm like, business is amazing and I feel great. Like, no, I still have like my horrible, horrible days where it's like, is anyone ever going to call me again? Like, will I ever get a speaking gig again? Like, am I ever going to get this curriculum built? What am I even doing? Like, what do I sell? What do I sell? Those days still happen, but through the lessons of abundance, you know, one of them is kind of letting things happen. So I think as humans, we do all this hustling, and that's okay. Like, I think it's okay to have seasons of, you know, cranking a little harder when you're giving yourself seasons of rest. Yeah. And then you just got to kind of let go and let the stuff that was meant for you kind of come to you, and know that some of the stuff you work the hardest at is just not going to happen. And continuing to push down that path, it's just a recipe for burnout. And, you know, another recipe. I think there's endless recipes for burnout, but that's cookbook. Yeah. There's a whole burnout cookbook. Yeah. I've lived most of it.
Yeah. Right. Me, same here, man. So what, if you had to leave the listeners with something that you want them to start doing or thinking, what would you want that to be?
I'm like, I should just have like a stack of things, but I don't like to do anything cute. I just like to be authentic with people. Yeah. Trying to think of the one thing. Dude, I would just say a life. Put yourself on a calendar. Put yourself on the calendar. Period. End of story. Like, I literally, for one of my teaching decks when I do webinars, have this goofy slide where I went on Canva and I wrote to-do list, and I took a picture of myself and I removed the background and I stuck myself on my to-do list, and everybody laughs at it, but I'm like, it's that simple. Yeah. Like, you're not going to get it perfect every time when you put yourself on the calendar, but if you're not on there, you're never going to be on there, right? Like, so put yourself on there every day. Yeah. And then, you know, some days you don't make it. Don't beat yourself up, but keep coming back to it. Keep trying to build that muscle. And eventually it's just old hat. And then it feels weird when you don't do it. Then you're like, oh, wait, you know, like, I should have had more boundary with you, you know, like instead of like, I don't have any boundaries. What's a boundary? You know, put yourself on your calendar, listeners. Put yourself on your calendar. Do it right now. Right. Wait till I sign off. Well, I mean, do the life audit first so you know what you want to put on your calendar. Like, you know, that's like, that's literally it's a 5-minute exercise. You can take longer. But my guess is if I ask every single person listening to name the top thing that makes them feel better, you could think of it off. You would know the one thing that lights you up. Yeah. And it probably isn't a vacation in Capri for 2 weeks. It's probably like making a matcha or, you know, taking a walk in the morning for 5 minutes or doing, you know, a workout for 15 minutes before your day starts. These don't have to be these big things. And I always say to people, start small. Like, don't I love when I used to coach people and I would be like, all right, what are you going to do this week? And they're like, well, I'm going to start working out for an hour. And I would be like, how long have you been working out prior week? Oh, I don't work out at all. How about we start with a 10-minute walk? Like, how about we like start with a 10-minute walk around the block 3 days a week, Like,
Yeah.
and then maybe we actually achieve that. And we're like, okay, I found a way to do that. So maybe if I do 30 minutes or 20 minutes and increase in increments that feel realistic to you, it teaches us two things. Number one, it builds a habit. And number two, it teaches us how to hold a boundary. Yeah. People are like, I have no boundaries. I'll never be able to set a boundary. And I'm like, well, if you try to set a boundary, like it's all about me from the get-go, you're going to fail. But if you say, I have 10 minutes of protected time per day where I'm going to do this one thing and nobody's getting in the way of that, you're going to succeed at that more than you're going to fail at it. And that's going to build a habit.
Yes, definitely. It has to be attainable. I think there's a lot of overreaching sometimes with the goals. So it's a good level set. So do the exercise.
I'm never going to eat bread again. Like for a celiac like me, that's, that's okay. But like for everybody else, it's like I've been eating pasta and cake and bread and whatever. I'm never going to eat bread again. I'm like, good luck with that. Let me know how that goes in 3 days. How about you only eat bread like 2 days a week or, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's always good to be honest with yourself. Like, what am I doing?
Yeah. And not that I'm against bread. If you want to eat bread 7 days a week, peeps, I have no judgment. I'm celiac. I can't, but you do you. That's a poor example, but I'm just saying it's always these like stark, I'm never going to speak to this person again. It's like, okay, good luck with that. Let me know how that goes.
Yeah. And one last question. I always like to throw in something that's just pure joy. What do you do that really is fun for you? So like you've given us great examples of what grounds you and keeps you going. What is just something fun? Mainly because I want to try it too. I like to have Orty's idea.
You already do my fun thing. I'm such a loser. Like I love fiction. I came to fiction really, really late in life. I read a ton of fiction. I was like on the AP English track and like, you get kind of booked out when you're in school. And then if you go to college, you're booked out. And then, I was reading. I didn't read for years after all of that. I was like, I'm done reading. I'm done with reading. No one's making me read anymore. Yay. And then that was like such a mess. Right. And then I became a self-help junkie. And kind of as I'm going through my midlife awakening or when it started, I can always tell when a woman is like entering perimenopause because there's usually like a stack of Pema Chodron books and like Elizabeth Gilbert. There'll be at least 2 Brene Brown, maybe a Glennon Doyle. Like I'll see their stack and I'm like, I'm starting the transition. Got it. But so it was so much self-help and so much spirituality that when I was in COVID and I'm autoimmune, so I was not gallivanting for like 2 years. It was a long stay inside. Eventually you ran out of TV. And so I was like, So I started reading fiction, and I am a junkie. You can't see it because unlike you where your bookcase is behind you, mine's in front of me, and it's like stacked floor to ceiling, and we have a lot of the same books.
Yeah.
But I love nothing more. Like nothing is more decadent to me than like curling up on the couch behind me with my 2 chihuahuas, a matcha, which is my drink of choice, a matcha latte, and like fiction and just reading for like 3 hours straight and like losing all track of time and space. And it's great because it's so portable, but I'm also like you, I have to hold the book. So I can't get rid of them. And it's like, why can't I get rid of them? I'm never going to read it again. I have too many new things to read, but they just like stack up. And then people are like, oh, can I borrow your book? And I'm like, no. I get really selfish. I'm like, I get really selfish about who I'll loan my book to because I am a bad, I have a woman. Yeah. I'm so sorry, Lori. I owe you your book back. We worked together and then I left the company and I still have her book. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm a horrible person. So don't lend me your books. And also I'm not going to lend you mine, but I will tell you which ones to buy.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I feel kind of the same way. I don't like when the pages are dog-eared. I'm just like, no, I just like crisp pages.
It's like, and then I'm like, what do I think I'm like growing here? Like the Biltmore Library? Like I'm not some like rich aristocratic man with a pipe that has this leather-bound books and this huge place to store them. Like at some point, I'm going to have no place to store these. But that will be my new burnout hack. I'll be like, okay, I'm going to weed through my books when I'm burnout and look at everything again. And that'll keep me away from it. Just got to bring it full circle.
Yes. You're a great guest.
Oh, thank you. I was like, we're talking about burnout in midlife, and like, I haven't done any of that justice. So let me bring it back to that.
Yeah. Oh, no, this has been great. I got a lot out of it personally. So thank you for being here. Yeah. And if anyone wants to either learn more about the Fuchsia 10 or your consulting, how do they find you?
Yeah. I mean, everything, as long as you can spell my name, which seems to be a challenge for everybody, even though it's like 4 letters. Kacy, Kacy Fleming, Fleming. That's the second problem.
Yeah.
And the worst thing is no one can spell the Fuchsia tent. And I was like, when you think of a brand, you have all these great ideas, but like then you realize how stupid you are. So so my website is kacyfleming.com. It's easy. If you're looking at me on LinkedIn, which is where like my body work is, just Kacy Fleming, MA. You'll see the fire red hair, which is a dead giveaway. And then you can find me on Instagram at KCA, the initials _Fleming.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Fuchsia tent. So I'm going to get mildly profane for a second because it's the only way people can know how to spell this word.
Yeah.
It was based on the red tent, but obviously the red tent was a little too biblical and scary for me. So I wanted to go with vibrant and vivid, which is what Fuchsia means and stands for.
Yeah.
Fuchsia is spelled like the nasty 4-letter word that starts with F.
Yes.
And instead of a K, you put an H there, and then it's SIA. So it's the fuchsiatent.com. At the Fuchsia Tent is where you can find me on Instagram. And there's a Fuchsia Tent page also at LinkedIn. But please, if you're entering Perry, if you don't know if you're entering Perry, head on over to the website. There's so many free resources that you don't even, if this was too much for you, it's fine. You don't even have to engage with me. Just use the resources for free. Get the advice I wish I had. And if you want to engage with me, there's tons of ways on there to do that. So,
yeah. Oh, I thought of one more question. I think when we were speaking a couple of weeks ago, you said you had a question and answer session for men, or maybe men were included in it? What's that?
I did. I piloted Menopause Mondays. I just did it this past Monday because I had so many men come on my LinkedIn feed, or whenever I present in employer coalitions or wherever I'm presenting, there's always men in the group that come and tell me about like what their wife has gone through, or how they wish they could help them, or what their employees are going through and how they wish they could help them.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, let me try and see if I can get men to join a session about information. But it was really a pilot for me to see like, okay, what's too much information?
Yeah.
What do men want to hear? And I will keep doing something in the space. I don't know that I will do that format. I feel like a lot of men signed up and then, thank you to the 6 that showed, but which is fine. It's free. I'm not making money on it. That's not why I'm doing it. But I think there's a more effective way. And I haven't quite cracked, because I haven't done the testing, to understand what men really want to hear about and what is most helpful and what is the most beneficial delivery system. I don't believe it's men delivering to men, because as much as there are men that do it, sometimes you never live the so you need someone. Usually what opens eyes for men is when I tell my story of kind of how it came on, how completely dysmorphic my experience became, and how common that is for women. Then they start seeing things and they ask the questions. But I haven't cracked the code on that yet, guys. Men, if you're listening, there are a lot of men in this audience, please find me and tell me how to do this right, because I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
I just know it has to happen. I don't know how to do it. I'm throwing spaghetti at the wall on this one. And, if I had more time, if I didn't have the 2 businesses and the priorities of the business, and I wanted to burn myself out, I would take on like message testing around like what works with men. But it's just not a top priority for Fuchsia Tent. So at the moment it will be on the roadmap. It's just not here yet. So tell me what I don't know, guys. Tell me what I don't know.
Yes. That's assignment number 3.
Hurry. Take whatever assignment you want.
Okay. I am going to go do my life audit right now and put something in my calendar. So thank you, Kacy. It's been fantastic speaking with you. And to all the listeners, thank you. See you next time. Bye.
Been a pleasure.